Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please sit down. Thanks so much. Great to be back. Great to be back in Escambia County. I want to thank Pensacola State College for hosting us here today. We've got some good announcements, but we also have some statements to make about, and you wouldn't think we'd even be in this situation, but we have this almost 3-to-1 supermajority of Republicans in the Florida House of Representatives, and it is rotten. They are behaving more like Democrats. They are colluding with the left. They're colluding with the media to try to sabotage all the great success that Florida has had over these last 6 years. And that is wrong. That is not what they told you they would do when they asked you for your vote. And so we're going to talk about a couple of the things. We have a great announcement on Hope Florida, and they're attacking that, too. I want to say that I'm pleased to be here by our wonderful First Lady, my wife, Casey. Chancellor of the State University System of Florida, Ray Rodriguez. Mel Ponder, President of Northwest Florida State College, has been a good friend. Former Representative Dr. Joel Rudman. Jane Simmons from Vision of Hope, John Boatwright from St. Andrew's Christian Care, Wendy Holly from St. Andrew's Christian Care Center, Christine Wong from Vision of Hope, and then we're going to hear from one of the Hope Florida recipients, Mary Lou, and those organizations have also benefited from Hope Florida. So first, I just have to say, we are #1 in higher education throughout the entire country. Our public university systems rank #1. As a Florida resident, you can send your kid. We even have grandparents can qualify for in-state tuition. And it's about $6,300 a year. That's the cheapest in the entire United States, and I've not let them raise tuition on Florida residents since I've been governor, and I'm proud of that. But having a good university system means you have to recognize that throughout our country, our universities have lost their way. They have become institutions focused more on political indoctrination rather than classical education. And so we said in the state of Florida very simply, these are your colleges and universities as taxpayers. They don't have the right to do whatever the heck they want and promote whatever agenda they want if it's not in the best interest of the state of Florida. So we are not tolerating indoctrination camps. We are going to have our universities subscribe to the classical mission of what a university should be, pursuing truth, preparing our students to be citizens of the Republic. And that's what your tax dollars should go for. I don't want parents to spend 18 years instilling values in their kids and then worry they send them to one of our universities in Florida and it's all going to be undone by Marxist professors. That doesn't work for me. So we have leaned in and led on the issue of higher education more than any other state in the country. We were the first state in the country to eliminate DEI from our public university system. We're the first, and I still think only state, to enact reforms so that all tenured professors must undergo review every 5 years and can be terminated for poor performance. We've also worked hard to bring more conservative professors to campus, and part of that is we instituted reforms that lets university presidents and our boards of trustees recruit from other universities and give them positions without putting them in against the current faculty. Because what happens is you apply to be a professor, you go before the faculty, and unless you toe the ideological line, they will blackball you. And that's what happens. So we've gone around the faculty. It's not their responsibility. It's not their right to be blackballing conservative professors. And so we've now recruited all these great folks at the Hamilton Center at University of Florida, place like New College in Sarasota. And when we get done with it, the University of West Florida, you will see some big changes there. Trust me. But in order to do this, it requires that the guy that you elected to be governor by a record margin, 4.6 million votes, that I take what you want to see in these universities and I use my authority to ensure that these universities don't run off the rail. So people would ask me when they had the whole Hamas stuff at like Columbia University, you literally have these Hamas people that are running the show at Columbia. They're taking over the school. And that didn't happen in Florida universities. And people say, well, you know, you're so fortunate that didn't happen in your university. So I was like, fortunate or luck has nothing to do with it. If any university president allowed that to happen in one of our Florida universities, they would no longer be university presidents in any of our universities because we would fire them. So you have to hold institutions accountable. And I think what's happened over many decades throughout the country is academia left to its own devices is absolutely going to run aground. They are going to go very hard left. They're going to be mired in all this indoctrination and all these ideological leftist fads, and we can't have that in Florida. So you got me in there. We make sure that we keep this thing going and obviously move it in a direction that's more reflective of the values of the state. And oh, by the way, that will also make the universities much better, okay? I mean, do we really need zombie studies programs like they have? I mean, it's ridiculous, some of the nonsense that they're doing. So we're proud of that. Now, in the Florida House of Representatives today, they are proposing a bill to undo this success. And this bill is proposed. I don't think she was the one that wrote it. I think this was the speaker told her to run it, but from Escambia County, Michelle Salzman. And, you know, she had been a very good ally for many years. She had a good conservative record. And I think what happens is these people go to Tallahassee and they go native. She's doing the bidding of the leadership and the staff. She's not doing what you sent them there to do. You did not elect her to undo our conservative reforms in higher education, because I'm confident if she ran on that, you wouldn't have elected her in the first place. And yet she is proposing a bill co-sponsored by the most flamboyantly left-wing Democrat in the entire Florida House of Representatives, is a co-sponsor. So do you think the far left is going to co-sponsor bills that are going to further our mission to make sure that we don't allow our universities to be leftist bastions of indoctrination? Of course not. That liberal representative is doing it because she knows this will kneecap the reforms that we have put in place and we continue to build on. They even write in this legislation that the governor and the governor's office can have no communications involving who gets selected to be university presidents. Imagine that. They bring some communist in to be the president of a university, and I'm just supposed to sit there and twiddle my thumbs? That's not how I roll. I'm not going to let that happen to you. I'm not going to let that happen to this state. So this bill... What this bill does, House Bill 1321, it removes the ability of us to ensure that we're holding universities accountable. So, for example, you know, we had the DEI elimination. Well, you got some guy at University of South Florida was like, oh, well, we're doing it by another name. Okay, well, you're fired. You got rid of him, right? You have to have that accountability. And what Salzman is trying to do, and again, I don't think that this is something she wanted to, I think this is like the speaker told her, you have to do that. And so, but what the bill would do was neuter our ability to keep universities in line and to build off the success. Because you know what? Like, if we can get, you know, good, strong conservative leaders to be willing to run universities, that should be a good thing. You want the governor involved in ensuring that. And so this is very ill-conceived, but you say, why would the Florida House of Representatives, you have almost a 3-to-1 supermajority, which, oh, by the way, they didn't have that supermajority until I came along, and yet they are weaponizing that to try to attack us, our administration, and make no mistake, when they're attacking me, they're attacking you, because all I'm doing is standing up for what I told you I would do when you elected me. And that's what they're doing, and they're trying to empower the left. And I think to myself, you know, nobody has done better than we have in Florida in beating the left, in beating the Democrats, and making sure that we have really strong Florida First policies. And so here we are, have made more progress on higher education than any other state. In fact, the Wall Street Journal last month, they did a front page article And they said, President Trump is looking to overhaul universities. Look to Florida to see what's going to happen because Florida's already done it. And they went through everything that we had done, and they said that's the model that's now being done with the Trump administration. And so why would you want to kneecap that? Why would you want to empower the left? And if you take us out of it, that is going to mean they go left. That is the way these things are. So we all know that. Something is rotten in the Florida House of Representatives. These people are not doing what you said, what they told you that they would do. And here's the thing. When you go up there, the leadership will threaten these representatives. They'll say, if you don't do this bill, you will lose your committee assignment. You will lose your projects. You won't have any of your bill heard. So they exact retribution on these members. And so that's why you have people that are pursuing some of this stuff, which is clearly not what they campaigned on. But here's the thing. Leadership's not cost-free. When you lead, you have to face consequences of leading. And so if you're willing to stand up as a representative and reflect the will of your constituents and follow through on your campaign promises, and that means you got to stand up to the House leadership and the staff and all these people that think they can boss you around, you may lose a committee assignment. You may have a project deep sixth, but at the end of the day, Edmund Burke said, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. So you can sit there on your hands and act like you got to play the game, but that is why this is the least productive Florida House of Representatives in the modern history of the Florida Republican Party, even though we have on paper, the biggest majority in the history of the Florida Republican Party. And I have no problem. If they run and tell you that their platform is to undo our conservative reforms in higher education, you vote for them. What am I going to do on that? I may disagree with it, but it is what it is. That wasn't what they ran on. They all ran saying they were going to support conservative policies. They all said they were going to help build off the success of our Florida First policies and the Florida model. And what they're doing now is the opposite of what they told you they would do. They're trying to sabotage the success because they have a political agenda. These are folks that are not doing what they promised the voters they would do. And that is unacceptable. And what I found in this line of work is if you just tell people what you're going to do, you get in there and do it, not everyone will like it. But they will respect the fact that you said what you're going to do and you followed through. I think what really irks voters is when people tell them, oh, they're going to most conservative thing since sliced bread, they're going to fight the Dems, fight the left, and then they get in, and then they collude with the left and collude with the Dems. That's wrong. That's a fraud on the voters who elected these people. And that is what is going on right now in Tallahassee, and you deserve better. So this bill that they're doing is absolutely designed to unravel all the success we've had in higher education. And look, we've done more than any other state by far, but we got a lot more to do. We haven't solved this problem. We got a lot more to do. University of West Florida, buckle up. You're going to see a lot of changes there for the better. It's going to be, how does the most conservative part of the state have some of these some of the most liberal programs in the state? It doesn't make any sense. So the times are a changing there too. So you're going to see that. So we've got a lot more to do. This would kneecap it, and it would basically render the successes null and void, and that's not what you voted for. Now, we're also here today because as part of our university system, we are now having our universities that have embraced the program that's called Hope Florida, which was conceived by the First Lady. And this is something that, everyone was saying was great until these guys had a political agenda to try to manufacture smears and to try to do things. And I think they're doing that to try to hide from the fact that their agenda is so anemic and that they're stabbing you in the back on all these policies. People ask me, I was talking to the neurosurgeon I came here, he's like, hey, thanks for tort reform. He's like, we've been trying to do that for a long time. And I'm like, they're trying to undo that. And he's like, yeah, what the heck is going on? I thought these were Republicans. The Republican House that you elected that already did this in the years past since I've been governor, they're now trying to undo it. There's like a flurry of bills that none of you have asked for, but that every single one of them would have one impact. It would serve to funnel more money to liberal trial lawyers. Is that good for you? Is that going to be good for your costs and businesses? And of course it's not. It is not good for this state. It is purely to pay off a special interest group. And so you see that and you're wondering, like, what the heck's going on? So Hope Florida, when I became governor, we wanted to look at all kinds of different aspects of government. How can we do better? And oh, by the way, since I become governor, if you take the entire debt in the history of Florida, 180 years, and add that all up, we've retired 41% of it just in 6 years, and we're going to do more over the next 2 years. We've quadrupled our state's rainy day fund since I've been governor. We've run massive budget surpluses. We've cut billions of dollars worth of taxes. We have the lowest number of state employees, government employees per capita in the entire United States of America, and our debt per capita is the lowest in all of the United States of America. And so we've put our money where our mouth is. I tell people we were Doge before Doge was cool. And you've seen that. And we're always looking to do more. And I'm working really hard on local governments now, too. So we tried to do all these things, and it spanned a bunch of stuff. But, my wife, the First Lady, had an insight about our child welfare system and larger welfare programs from there. What you have is people that are in need. They will go in, and you'll have a bureaucrat, and the bureaucrat's hardwired to say, okay, what government programs are they eligible for? And let's try to get them on all the government programs. And let's try to keep them on all the government programs. And I think we all know, going back to the war on poverty under LBJ, that is not a pathway to self-sufficiency. That ends up creating a culture of dependency. It's not a way to really lift people up and to put them in a situation where they're going to be able to do very well for themselves. And so, but we in Florida and many places in the country, but we have massive amounts of resources in the faith community, which liberal states won't utilize the faith community. We've embraced the faith community as being important parts of the solution to things, whether it's child welfare, whether it's other things that are important in society. We've enlisted the support of charitable organizations. We've enlisted the support of businesses in the business community, individuals, all to be part of this Hope Florida model, which says, let's get all these people together. Let's make sure there's a place where they can be notified that people are in need. And so the job of the bureaucrat is no longer to find out which government programs they can get you on. The job of the bureaucrat is to be a navigator, to navigate the person in need through all the available resources that are in our communities. And guess what? If there's a need and you have the church come and fill it, the chance that that person is going to go back to government declines dramatically. They have much brighter horizons. And since Hope Florida has been up and running, you've gotten 30,000 people off of government assistance and saved the taxpayers $100 million. And so that's a success. That's what you should want. And oh, by the way, it didn't cost any money. This is just repurposing the folks that we have there. And so the taxpayer savings is really significant, but it isn't like we needed like a massive program to be able to get this done. So we've seen the ability of this to really, and you'll hear from some of the groups who've benefited and some of the individuals who've benefited, but this is a model that is really spread not just for the Department of Children and Families, but in many other aspects of Florida life now. And so today we're proud to announce that Hope Florida now has a liaison station in each of our 28 state colleges, which we really are thankful for that. So these liaison will act as a point of contact between the state colleges and Hope Florida. They will be trained experts in the Hope Florida model, and they will receive Hope Florida materials to distribute within the office, and they will train others on the philosophy and foundations of Hope Florida. So why have it like a state college? Well, you have a single mom that's got some young kids. She's going to like Pensacola State College, trying to get education to be able to have a good job and to be able to provide for her kids. And maybe misfortune strikes. Maybe she gets evicted from her apartment. Well, if you are just at a state college or you're just doing normal, you go to government, maybe they can help. I'm not saying that people don't want to help, but with Hope Florida, that's going to go out to the portal. all the faith-based groups, all the charitable organizations, local business individuals, they're all going to get this alert that we've got a student at a state college that has 2 young kids and she's in need. And guess what? You are going to see the churches and the charitable, they're going to swoop in and they're going to help this individual. And so this is something that's really, really impactful. So I'm excited that this is happening. Now, this just blows my mind. These guys in the Florida House of Representatives, you got a cabal of them in the leadership. They are colluding with liberal media and the Democratic Party in Florida to try to manufacture smears against Hope Florida, against me, against the First Lady. And what I've told people is, I've been doing this for 6 years. Every single time I roll out of bed, I face attacks from liberal media and the Democrats. That's nothing new. They're going to manufacture whatever they can. But to have Republicans in the Florida House leadership colluding with these people, when they're doing that and they're not cutting your property taxes, they're not fixing the condo crisis, they're not doing the things that voters want them to do, make no mistake about that. They are stabbing you in the back. They are refusing to do their jobs, and they are trying to manufacture smears to support their political agenda. And it's interesting, you know, these House members, I do a Governor's Cup where we raise money for charity. We did the Governor's Cup last year. We did it over in Watersound. We did this Governor's Cup. We raised massive amounts of money in the Governor's Cup for the direct support organization affiliated with Hope Florida. They were all a part of this. They were all singing the praises. And so they think that there may be some political angle. They're worried, I think, the fact that I've been calling them out for their lackluster and really treacherous agenda. I mean, it's one thing to do nothing, right? It's another thing to actively empower the Democrats and the left. And that's exactly what they've been doing in the Florida House of Representatives this legislative session. So these smears against Hope Florida, anybody who's making those smears is not serving you well. That is not something that makes sense when very few examples of government actually succeeding and helping to lift people up. And not only that, you have states around the country have come down to study this program and are implementing it in different states around the country. Now, not the liberal states because they don't want to enlist the churches in the effort, but that's their problem. You know, they're wrong about not wanting to do that. So you have that. They come and they do all this stuff. And it's interesting because you listen to some of these are Republican legislators. It's like, how come someone will come from Iowa to learn about Hope Florida and you won't even walk down the hall and ask questions about it because you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even understand what the program is actually doing. So this is something that's really good. I'm really excited that we have this here. Today's announcement is going to make a difference in the lives of people. And, you know, especially when you're talking about our state colleges. You know, some of them are working people. I mean, it isn't like, you know, you graduate high school and you come. I know we have that. But you got folks that may be in different stages of their lives, trying to make something of themselves, and they may have some curveballs thrown their way. So let's utilize all the great resources in places like Pensacola to be able to lift these people up. Hope Florida is the way to do that. So I commend everybody that's been involved. I want to thank the First Lady. And here's the thing. When you're governor, anything bad happens, even if you had nothing to do with it, they will blame you. But then when good things happen, you know, that's part of my thing. But I really had no ownership of this. I didn't devise it. She devised it. She set the vision. She executed the vision. And it's been great to see the positive results. And I know the best is yet to come. Okay, with that, the First Lady.
Thanks for having me. You know, just first and foremost, I want to say it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to serve as First Lady. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about how I approach this job with a lot of humility. I understand and realized very quickly when the good Lord puts you in a position to be able to make a difference, what do you do with it? And it's been just very humbling. But when he was first elected in 2018 and then you get into 2019, I had a choice at that point in time, right? People were saying, what are you going to do? Like, what's your one initiative? Are you just going to read to children, which is great. Like, I do that. I read to my kids every night. I go around schools. I do that. But what are you ultimately going to do? And I said, you know what? I don't know. And I want to take this opportunity to go and learn. And so I had the chance to get in front of a lot of groups across the state, and people who particularly were in the child welfare sphere, in mental health and in the welfare sphere, and that, I wanted to learn more, because you don't want to go into anything with, a false assumption of how you think something operates, right? So I wanted to get out there and I wanted to learn. Because I thought, again, as First Lady, what do you do with that opportunity? I don't want to be a potted plant in the side of the room and watch the world go by and take the path of least resistance. Is that what the good Lord wants you to do? Or do you want to get out there and educate yourself? And do you want to learn? And do you want to make a difference? And I went around and I learned from a lot of the key stakeholders. And it was fueled, let me tell you this, it was fueled by the fact that I hate to see people suffer. There are people in our society and in our state who are suffering. And if there is something that we can do to ease their suffering, then we have an obligation to stand up and fight for them. And so therefore, I felt very compelled. But the question is, okay, what do you do? Because I don't believe that government's the solution to anything, right? But government is uniquely positioned, as the governor said. Since the late 1960s, you had the Great Society. You had Johnson came in after the Kennedy assassination. He won in a landslide, and he said, I'm going to take on the war on poverty, and I'm going to reduce and eliminate poverty. And listen, if I could snap my fingers, or the governor could snap his fingers in 2 seconds and get rid of poverty, of course we would do it. But what happened as a result of that? Government grew. Trillions of dollars were spent. And were the people who were suffering ultimately getting the help that they needed and deserved? I would say overwhelmingly no. But what happened is, after that, a lot of very vulnerable people and people who were looking to help were directed to government, right? They got away from the churches. They got away from the communities. They got away from the people who were on the ground, who had the God-given mission to be able to help those people. But there became a disconnect. So we thought, and I thought, after traveling the state, right, and learning from all of the experts on the ground and learning to the stakeholders, what can we do, uniquely positioned as government, when people who are suffering and are in need of help, that single mom, who I sympathize with very much, because I have 3 kids, and I know how hard it is. Imagine how hard it is for her. Imagine how difficult it is for her to figure out how she's going to put food on the table, how she's going to have her kids home for dinner, homework, keep down a job, keep the lights on, to do everything that she needs to do. Who's fighting for her? I said, we will. And here's why. Because when you're coming into government, we have an obligation to be able to connect them with resources exterior of government. What do I mean? So when I was meeting with people on the ground, I saw one thing very clear. There's so much good being done in the communities, but it's all siloed, right? So you have the nonprofits, you have the faith-based communities, you have the private sector, you have the state government, you have the local government. They're doing good things, right? But they're not communicating, and they're not communicating, and they're not collaborating on behalf of that single mom. So we said, okay, without growing government, right? Because the closest thing to what is eternal life is a government program, right? Is that Reagan? So it's not to grow government, but what we can do is we can transition people who are processing government assistance, right? So TANF and SNAP and those sort of benefits. Why don't we transition them over to be a part of the solution? Why don't we empower them now, when that single mom is calling in, to be able to say, okay, how can we help you? What do you need? Instead of, here's your check, I hope it goes well, we'll see you in 6 months, and whatever. No. We said, and actually talking with a lot of these navigators, they feel empowered for the first time in their lives, like they can make a difference, right? So now you have this single mom, you have this navigator who used to just process payments as a part of the solution. She says, what can you do? Or how do you need help? She says, well, I'm having a hard time keeping the lights on. I'm having a hard time putting food on the table. I don't know what kind of job I can get. I don't have a high school diploma. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Well, that navigator becomes a mentor for that mom. And she says, we've got you. We're going to help you. We're going to start here. And when you start here to meet needs, what does that mean? It doesn't mean government. Of course, if they're entitled to benefits, you do that. I mean, there should be a safety net to be able to support people. I think the taxpayers would be in support of that. Not in perpetuity, but right, okay, let's help. Now let's look exterior of government. Let's look to the nonprofits. Let's get a Rolodex together. It's so funny, I say Rolodex, and the kids are like, what's a Rolodex? And I'm just like, okay, Siri. You're asking Siri, right? Or I guess we're getting to the point where it's like Grok or whatever. Grok, you go to Grok. Ask Grok. What are the resources available within the community? So now they're looking through the Rolodex or whatever, and they're finding, you know, there's all these great things to be able to put pieces together. It's not, you know, go call this person on and hope it goes well. It's holding their hand and helping them and trying to say, okay, yes, there's this, and I'm going to talk to Sally. Sally's going to be able to get you this, and we're going to do that. But let's say, for instance, you don't have any nonprofits that's able to service, you know, that single mom in need, right? What do you do? We are the first state in the nation with pride to tap into our faith-based community. We have 16.5 million people of faith across the state of Florida, 20,000 institutions of faith who have always been there and ready and willing to help. The two never knew each other existed because somewhere along the way, government got involved. So what do? We say, okay, we've enlisted thousands of churches. So now you got that single mom, you got the navigator who are having a hard time putting food on the table. I got you. They literally, the navigator will input into an electronic system, right, the need of the single mom. Let's say she can't put food on the table. They'll say, hey, churches, there's a single mom and she's having a hard time with groceries and food. Can you help? ? Goes out in the form of immediate electronic alert to our participating faith-based organizations. They all compete. And it's a competition. Who can get it first? And they're legitimate needs, right? These are coming from reputable sources. They need help. They got it. They literally deliver that to her front doorstep. They show up with a plate of lasagna. They show up with groceries. And you know what else they show up with? Hope and love. Because what has just happened? Government has made a connection between good people in need of help, good people who are willing to help. The two just came together. And you know what? Government, in a lot of instances, can take a step back because a lot of their work is done. However, it doesn't end there, right? So just as I've said, you have these navigators who are mentors to the mothers or to anyone, right? So foster, adoptive families, our veterans, elders, whatever it might be, anybody who's looking for assistance, they're going to be able to help provide those services. But let's say that single mom is looking for help with her kids. We are doing so much, thanks to him, with the Fatherhood Initiative, thanks to those in the legislature who have been supportive, to be able to provide mentorship opportunities for children. So now think about this. The navigator, we're meeting immediate needs, you're helping to mentor the mom, but all of a sudden along the way, the navigator can say to that mom, hey, you know, take a child fishing. There are big brothers, big sisters. There's all of these mentorship programs to help the children live up to their God-given potential, because I can tell you the one thing that I have seen with such humility. I've been able to meet kids through this program with the Department of Juvenile Justice, where kids who have been abused and neglected, and they've just gone through hell, frankly. But I get to meet them because they become ambassadors. And why are they ambassadors? Because they've overcome just unsurmountable odds. And their success stories are unbelievable, like class presidents, first one to graduate from college, entrepreneurship, all of this. And I ask every single one of them the exact same question. I said, how did you get to the governor's mansion? Like, you've overcome a lot. I've seen your stories. How did you do that? And they all give me the same answer. They don't realize they're doing it, but they do. They all tell me the exact same thing. They said, someone at some point took an interest in my life and gave me value and gave me worth and gave me hope. And that changed everything. So think about this philosophy, right, of Hope Florida, right? So now you're helping the mom, you're helping the families, you're helping the children to get the mentorship so they can have hope, that they can overcome. But it doesn't even end there, right? Because of everything that this governor has done, vocational and technical and higher education, and all of these opportunities to be able to get skills, to be able to get a job, to live up to your God-given potential, and ultimately to be happy and successful. It's there, but think about it. You can have the best resources in the world. If you don't know that they're there, what good are they? It's so hard to find. Even Grok would have some problems trying to figure out all of the different wickets, right? So if you're a mom and you don't even know where to start and you're trying to hold down the fort, just imagine if you knew there's a job waiting for you over there. Here are the skills that you can get a lot of times paid for. You can get paid apprenticeships. You can get all the skills. You can get your high school diploma, whatever it is. We're going to map it out for you, right? You're going to have it. And then this job is waiting for you on the other side where you can make more money. You can be self-sufficient. You can live up to your God-given potential in the American dream. And ultimately, for me, what it is, because it means the most, is happiness. If you, and I go back to what I said in the beginning, this is why I do this. People are like, you're nuts to get out there and get involved in politics. I said, this is why I do it, because you see it's all there. You can help change the trajectory of somebody's life. You can put them on a pathway to economic self-sufficiency. You can help them be happy. And so if you see that, you have an obligation to get into the arena and to fight on behalf of them. And anything less, I think, would be malpractice. And like I said, it's an honor and a privilege. And he mentioned a second ago about the 30,000 number, which I think is just, it's fantastic, right? It's showing people the pathway and hope. But there's also something really interesting about that. And this, we're working to quantify it. But what about the preventative side of things? Why is it that government a lot of times in all its glory waits until there's a problem, then they react, and the outcomes aren't as good, they spend more money, there's more bureaucracy, there's more bloat, there's more waste, there's no accountability, all of this stuff. What if we get in front of problems? What if there's a way to prevent that child from being taken from the household? What if there's a way that we can help that single mom before she even goes into government assistance? We're doing that. So, for instance, the other day we partnered with every single sheriff's office across the state of Florida. Why? Well, because their deputies are the first ones on the ground when there's a problem, and they're going into the communities, and they know the people in the communities. And prior to all of this, if they saw that there was a problem, they might know of maybe one nonprofit or something. But now they see a problem, they say, you know what, do you need help? And then they can go ahead and they can tell them about the Hope Florida model. Call one number, right? 833-GET-HOPE. Talk to a human. That's the other thing about society. We've all gotten down to this, right? It's like, can we just talk to somebody? And that's what you can do. You can talk to a human. You can go to the website and you can get help. That's how you get in front of it. Helping in the colleges, that's how you get in front of it. Working with the schools, that's how you get in front of it. You try to help prevent people from ever going into government to begin with. And think about, this is not a program per se. This is about a philosophy. This is about how do we re-engineer and restructure government to benefit the taxpayer and to benefit the people who deserve help. Because if there's a mom out there right now and she doesn't know where to turn, but dang it, does she need help? Man, does she not want the pathway? And we know we have it. We have an obligation to tell her about it so that she can be happy. And it all makes sense. It's crystal clear, Dewey said. I mean, I'd be happy to do whatever's necessary to talk to anybody about this. And that's why you see people coming from all over the United States of America to come to Florida, to say Florida's leading. And we don't have copyright on this. You want to do it, go forth and take the model and run with it, because it's a success. And from my perspective, it's really an honor and it's a privilege to be in this position to be able to help people in need. It's one that I approach with much humility, and it's one that I'm going to keep fighting for every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Oh, God bless you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, First Lady. And thank you, Dr. Meadows, for your hospitality to meet here on campus. I just have a couple prepared comments just in support of this expanded opportunity with Hope Florida on the college campuses. As you heard the Governor and First Lady talk about, this initiative is going to be a new initiative to take place on our college campuses. I know Chancellor Rodriguez is here somewhere. I know Commissioner Diaz is not here, but I want to thank him as well. But as a state college president, I'm looking forward to the benefits this program, the Hope Navigator program, will bring to our students, our campuses, and our communities. I was honored to be part of a roundtable discussion that the First Lady held just several weeks back with a few college presidents and university presidents when this Campus Navigator vision was released. And now here we sit just a few weeks after the vision was released and have all 28 state colleges who have partnered with and designated an on-campus liaison to connect our most vulnerable students to resources. Like other colleges, we too have needs on our campus today. 1/3 of our students qualify for federal financial need, demonstrating demand for community support services. We have students currently enrolled who have utilized the homelessness tuition exemption. We have many students who today are food insecure and rely on our Raider Pantry for food. Our college also sits within a footprint of 2 school districts which report over 50% and 47% respectively of students on their free and reduced lunch program. noting the continued need in our college's service territory as these students give thought to any post-secondary journey. One story, it's a testimony, is our student services team has worked with high school guidance counselors in the past to help assist students with admissions, financial aid, and program completion. One such success story is with assistance. The student was living on a friend's couch due to his mother's drug abuse problem. First Lady, you're kind of hitting on this, that single mom situation where you have some hardships at home. The student completed his Association of Arts because of the assistance degree and then went on to finish the Association of Science and Physical Therapy Assistant Program. This person is currently employed full-time now and has at an internship location and is applying to complete his bachelor's degrees. Why? Because they had hope. I believe behind a testimony like this, there's countless others, opportunities, and I believe the Hope Navigator program will be a catalyst to help others on their journey, give them hope, and increase testimonies like this on each of our 28 college campuses. I'm looking forward to having our in-house and on-campus trained liaison be the one-stop shop for our students who might have a need around food, work, childcare, housing, and help connect them with the possibilities and hope coupled with post-secondary educational opportunities. I'm encouraged and on board because a program which honors and helps our students instill hope to dream will be a great tool for our students to have. I believe that a student who can get the help through these real and raw troubling circumstances and have someone trained who can listen to them, remind them that they are significant, extend a hand to meet a need, and point them into the possibilities of tomorrow is absolutely a great way to go. And it is a great win for our students, the college, their family, the community, and whatever else new opportunities they have in their journeys ahead. Governor and First Lady, thank you so much for expanding the tent pegs of this program to give it navigated possibilities of hope for our next generation. Thank you so much.
Hello, sorry. On behalf of Vision of Hope, I would like to thank Governor and First Lady DeSantis so much for the wonderful Hope Florida program, a network of people helping people. What a difference it is making in the lives of our friends with intellectual and developmental disabilities at Vision of Hope. More joy, more success, more hope. Thanks to the generous support of Hope Florida, we are excited to introduce an incredible new program called Equipping Minds. It is designed to enhance cognitive function by improving memory, processing speed, and overall work performance. It is highly adaptable to meet the unique needs of each learner and is especially beneficial for those individuals who are aging, who are on the autism spectrum, who have ADD, ADHD, or other specific learning challenges. As far as we know, this program is not currently being offered in person anywhere in the state of Florida. It's online, but not in person. We are in the process right now of becoming certified to teach it and look forward to launching these classes in the fall. We were also able to modify the workspace at our transition center to include both a kitchen and a woodworking area. This enabled us to broaden the vocational skills that we are able to offer to our participants. It has been amazing to watch each one work hard and flourish. One young man in our program was he excelled in the woodworking area and has gained so much self-confidence that he says he is now ready to face the world and try to pursue a career. And if you knew this young man, it would be a big deal. It's a big deal for him. Another wonderful story I'd like to share, and there's many. I'd like to share a lot, but anyway, another story I'd like to share is about a young lady who told us how she loved to bake with her grandmother. Then on a community-based learning trip to Publix, we were walking through, and she looked at the bakery section, and she said, I want to work there someday. She had also expressed how she would like to take cooking classes and baking classes one day to give her more experience. Well, with our modified kitchen, thanks to Hope Florida, we gave her more cooking experience and more baking experience, and she loved it. Now, our job coach knew that baking was her passion, and so she went out in the community looking for a place for this girl to go. Well, she found a new shop called The Makery, and she went in and talked to the shop owner. Well, that shop owner was more than willing to give Megan a try. So Megan started volunteering there, and the lady fell in love with her. Megan is so enthusiastic and whatnot, so the lady wanted to hire her. And so now I'm happy to say that Megan is now in a paid position at the Makery, and she is also pursuing her culinary certificate at Laughlin Tech this fall. So thanks to Hope Florida, her dream is coming true. At one time, she had said that she was scared to be an adult, but now she loves it. She loves it. The gift from Hope Florida helped Megan's dream come true, and it has helped each participant in our program become more confident and more eager to become a valued member of the community. Thank you, Hope Florida. Thank you, First Lady DeSantis and Governor DeSantis, for making all of their dreams come true. Okay.
Governor, First Lady, thank y'all for allowing me to come today and share about St. Andrew's Christian Care Center. We are a 501c3 operating with only volunteers, 0 payroll. We are the largest food bank in North Florida. Last May, Hope Florida awarded us $20,000. Thank you again. With this money, we were able to buy at 7 cents a pound from our partner Feeding the Gulf Coast. We're able to feed 21,558 people, clients. In total, in 2024, we fed over 66,000 clients and clothed over 56,000 clients. And if you do the math, Hope Florida took care of 1/3 of our food expenses for 2024. That was a blessing. All of this would not be possible without Hope Florida. We use the award to feed our clients that are struggling with health issues, disabilities, homelessness, single parents, grandparents who find themselves caring for grandchildren, those moving from incarceration back into our communities, and other low-income persons. Our counselors meets with each of these clients. We listen to their struggles, we listen to their needs, and it'll break your heart. We share our resources within our community, but as has been pointed out, our knowledge is limited on what's out there in our communities. This is where Hope Florida has been so much help to us. And we have posters around to communicate how to contact Hope Florida. We have personal cards that they can walk out with to make contact. We share how Hope Florida can connect them, as has been shared earlier, to sources and connect them for help, which will put a smile on their face when they feel that they're partnering with someone. Hope Navigators will listen, put a plan together for these clients. This helps the clients that are struggling with what next to do. Hope Florida brings hope and a better path for their future. Thank y'all.
Hi, my name is Mary Lou Chapman, and I am a Hope Florida participant. So Hope Florida helped me and my family so much during one of the most tragic losses my family has ever faced, and hopefully ever will face. I was living bill to bill when I lost my son, so the bills continue to stack up. They don't just go away when you face a tragedy. I was in the hospital, and I had just gotten my car back out of the shop a week before I went into the hospital, so that was a whole nother bill, and it was just like, it was bombarding me. So I was at a loss, and I worked in the office at that time, making a low wage, and it just wasn't working out, so I ended up looking for another job. And with that, found Hope Florida. Hope Florida provided education, basic needs, transportation, and even employment resources. They helped me with my resume and stay off of welfare. I got a job within 2 weeks of leaving the office, and it changed my life. I am now a manager there at Terry's Pool Service and don't even need daycare vouchers anymore, which is huge. I went from the bottom to the top with the help of Hope Florida, and I am completely self-sufficient, and while I still have struggles, I now know how to manage the struggles. I budget and use all the resources I can. Hope Florida gave me hope at a time I needed it most, and I can't thank them enough for all of their support. I literally don't know where I'd be without them. Ashley Bestison, my Hope Navigator, was there to support me and answer any questions I had along the way, and she's still there to this day. I got a certificate of participation. I put in the work, and that's the most important part of this program is you have to be willing to put in the work too. You can't just expect it to be handed to you. You got to try. And they tried with me, and it worked. And I'm a success story walking around now, so thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ray Rodriguez. I'm the Chancellor of the State University System of Florida. I'm here just to say a few words on House Bill 1321. The University System of Florida is governed by the Board of Governors. Prior to the creation of the Board of Governors, the University System of Florida was governed by the Florida Board of Regents. This was from 1965 through 2001. The Board of Regents was created by the legislature and placed in statute. In 2001, after conflict between the Board of Regents and the legislature dissolved the statute, repealed it, and eliminated the Board of Regents. At that time, boards of trustees were created. Then U.S. Senator Bob Graham, who had previously served as governor, felt it was a mistake to not have a central oversight for the State University System of Florida. He championed a constitutional amendment, put it on the ballot, and in 2002, the voters approved the creation of the Board of Governors to serve the role of managing the state university system. If you look in the early years of the Board of Governors, it was created in 2003 after the 2002 election. There was questions of where the authority lied, 2003, 4, and 5. Because the question was, could the Board of Governors enact regulations that were not in compliance with the existing statute? There was a question of where was tuition to be set. Was it to be set by the legislature or the Board of Governors? Then U.S. Senator Bob Graham sued the legislature over these questions to go to the Florida Supreme Court and have those questions of authority answered. The Board of Governors in 2007 joined that litigation. They were a party to the lawsuit. In March of 2010, there was a press conference. And at the press conference, which was attended by the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the Governor of the State of Florida, the Chair of the Board of Governors, the Chancellor of the State University System, it was announced that the Board of Governors was withdrawing from that litigation. It was no longer going to be a party to the lawsuit. And instead, it was announced that through negotiation, a governance agreement had been reached between the Board of Governors, the Florida legislature, and approved by the then governor of the state of Florida. And the governance agreement was straightforward. On matters of tuition, it was recognized that the legislature held the power of the purse. But on matters of policy, dealing with the state university system, it was recognized that the policy belonged in the hands of the Board of Governors. The governance agreement affirmed, and I'm quoting from the governance agreement, the exclusive authority of the Board of Governors for delegating powers and duties to the boards of trustees. This language conforms specifically with the language in the Constitution, the Florida Constitution, which says the Board of Governors shall establish the powers and duties of the boards of trustees. The governance agreement also affirmed the exclusive authority of the Board of Governors over all personnel programs within the state university system. This also conformed with the Florida Constitution, which stated that the Board of Governors shall operate, regulate, control, and be fully responsible for the management of the whole university system. House Bill 1321 removes the Board of Governors from the personnel management of the universities in the selection of the president. Earlier, you heard Governor DeSantis point to a provision in the bill that would prohibit the governor or his staff from communicating with trustees. In the bill itself, the Board of Governors are removed and no longer have the role that was spelled out not only in the Constitution, but in the governance agreement to play a role in the selection of the president through the role of confirmation, working with the boards of trustees. That governance agreement was critical because once that agreement was reached, it became the foundation for what has become the most successful state university system in the entire country. Two pillars were placed on that foundation. The first was performance-based funding, where the legislature and the Board of Governors worked together to define the goals, and with the Executive Office of the Governor, of our university system, which were the 10 metrics of student success, and then aligned our incentives, which is the appropriations, to support those goals. Performance-based funding is why we have the top-ranked university system in the country right now. The second pillar was preeminence, where we defined what are the metrics of excellence for our Tier 1 research universities, and then put together an appropriation plan to support that. All of this was done through collaboration, beginning with regulation at the Board of Governors, legislation from our legislature, and then appropriation. And together, the results are indisputable. As the governor mentioned earlier, we have the lowest tuition in the country. Our tuition is 45% lower than the national average for an in-state student. In our system, you can leave spring semester, spend your summer working full-time at a minimum wage job, and before the summer is over, have earned enough to pay for your fall and spring tuition and fees. That makes us one of the last public university systems in the country that you can work your way through. Florida is number 2 in the nation in financial aid, and we're number 1 in the nation in merit-based financial aid. That is why 77% of the students that are enrolled in our system, because of our low tuition and our high financial aid, are enrolled with no student loans, no debt. And when you look across the country, what you see is frustration with higher education. Fortunately, we do have a doctor in the house. Frustration with higher education because students enroll and then they drop out. In our nation, 3 out of 4 students who enroll persist, but in our system, 9 out of 10 persist from year 1 to year 2. You see frustration that people are getting degrees and they can't get jobs. In our system, 74% of our students who graduate within a year are employed or they're continuing their education, and if they're employed, their median wage is $50,000, significantly higher than those that just have a college degree. And our governor has made it a mission to root out indoctrination in our higher education system. Last year, we completed the largest survey that's ever been done of university students. And what we learned is 78% of our students believe that their university offers viewpoint diversity, and 81% of our students believe their university offers intellectual freedom. You cannot argue with the results of our system based on the governance agreement, based on the Constitution of the state of Florida. Now, I know legislation changes as it works its way through the process. It's my sincere desire that the bills we see in both chambers are eventually amended so that they comply with the Constitution and that they maintain this governance agreement, which has proven to be so successful for our students. We have the second largest university system in the nation. We have 400,000 students that are counting on us to get this right. It's my sincere desire that we will work together to do so.
Or I can just veto it and just keep doing what works instead of. But so I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up former Rep. Rudman in a sec, Dr. Rudman. But you hear what Chancellor Rodriguez is talking about. You heard what I articulated. And the question is, why the hell are they doing this? This is not what you asked for. None of them campaigned on this. Why is this happening given the success we've had? Wouldn't you want to build off the success rather than sabotage the success? And the answer is that the leadership in the Florida House of Representatives basically has two agenda items. One is to enrich liberal trial lawyers, and they're trying to undo all our tort reform that has proved to be successful. You didn't ask for that. The special interests asked for that. But the other thing they're trying to do is simply trying to undermine me and attack me and undermine our policies that have proven to be successful and that you voted for. And I would have no problem. I mean, if your reps ran saying that if you elect them, that they were going to go and work to sabotage the governor's policies, and you elected them, hey, it is what it is. But we all know that these reps would not have gotten elected in the Panhandle or anywhere else if that's what they ran on. You want them to be able, you want them working with us to continue moving Florida forward. And so this is all part of an agenda to simply try to attack the governor's office and undermine our policies, which is a fraud on you. They're turning their back on you. And here's the thing, the leadership, the staff, these people, this is not, I mean, they have more in common with the Democrats, quite frankly, than Republicans. And so they get in these positions. But, you know, the rank and file members should not be standing for this. They shouldn't just sit there and be quiet while these attempts at sabotage are happening, while they're trying to fabricate smears against things like Hope Florida. They should stand up and be counted and do what's right for you. Maybe they'll lose a committee assignment. So be it. Maybe they'll lose a project. So be it. Maybe they will lose a bill. So be it. That's the price of leadership. So we need leadership in the House of Representatives, and we need to stop the nonsense. Dr. Rudman.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, First Lady, for inviting me here today. And first of all, I want everybody to know that the officer is fine. You know how it is when you're standing for a long period of time, you lock your knees. So I want everybody to know that the officer is fine. But Governor, First Lady, let me welcome you to Pensacola, which is known around the world by many titles. America's first city, the city of five flags. But Governor, make no mistake, this is DeSantis country. Now, before we get started, let me also remind everyone here that back when the rest of the world was losing their minds, during this COVID hysteria, while we're on the topic of education, I want you to remember that our governor is the reason that our kids were able to go back to school in person, mask-free, and without those ridiculous quarantine policies. And Governor, I remember, because I was here in Santa Rosa County fighting my local school board, they were insisting on sending healthy kids home, and their only crime was that they happened to be sitting next to another kid that was coughing. Just utterly, utterly ridiculous stuff. Our governor fought tooth and nail against that garbage. He took these rogue school boards to task. He freed our schools. And Governor, just for that alone, we can never thank you enough. Now, to welcome the governor and the First Lady here at Pensacola State College on the topic of education is truly fitting. For many citizens in Northwest Florida, Pensacola State College, it's their lifeline. It's part of their game plan to achieve that job or to pursue that career that they've wanted all their lives. We're essentially a military bedroom community here, and our citizens, they understand the value of education, but they also understand the value of a dollar. They see the state college system as the most affordable and the most successful way to achieve their goals. They understand, like you and I do, that it makes no sense to pay a private university $40,000 a year for 2 years of prerequisite classes that they could probably take right here at Pensacola State College for a fraction of the price. Our families here, they also understand the importance of job training and learning essential skill sets. To that end, as your state representative from Navarre, I worked with the governor to pass a law that made it easier for our military combat medics to go back to nursing school and join our nursing workforce. At PSC, is happy to train those future nurses. Make no mistake, if you have skills, or if you're willing to learn skills, and you want to use those skills to the betterment of the state of Florida, we will find a place for you in Florida. But that's not all the governor has done to improve our colleges and universities. I want to thank our governor also for rooting out these garbage philosophies of wokeism, anti-Semitism, socialism, and DEI from our schools. And let me tell you, because I was there, it's not as easy as it sounds. Because in the Florida House, you see, the local Democrats, they have their own Florida version of the squad. The governor mentioned one of the members, Anna Escamani, earlier, who's trying to resuscitate DEI at all costs. You know, Governor, there was this radical there when I was there, Angie Nixon, who sympathized with the anti-Semites. She sympathized with the terrorists. And then you had Democrat trial lawyer Hillary Cassell, who voted down my Second Amendment bill, who spoke against our medical freedom bill. And, you know, to her, if you have a problem, bigger government was her solution. So let me tell you, it wasn't easy for the governor to do everything he did. But Ron DeSantis did everything he promised you, the voter. He did what you elected him to do. And I'm here to tell you, not just any Republican could have done that. Now, case in point, let me fast forward you to November 19th of this year. As the governor said, there's a brand new speaker in the Florida House, brand new leadership, brand new staff. You know, it's a whole new way of doing things. November 19th, I was in Tallahassee getting sworn in to begin my second term of office. And by that afternoon, every single Republican member of the Florida House was summoned to a learning session on how to be a better legislator. So you thought maybe they're going to talk to us about conservative topics? There was no mention of open carry, no mention of repealing red flag laws, no mention of eliminating ghost candidates in our elections, no mention of taking away legal standing from illegal immigrants, which, by the way, Governor, these were all bills that I filed this session. Instead, leadership used our time to tell us that we're not going to listen to Ron DeSantis anymore. They literally said, we are not going to be Ron DeSantis's dog, only they didn't use the word dog. They used a vulgar term instead. But, Governor, don't take it personally, because the very next bullet point in that listening session, the very next bullet point was they weren't big fans of the Senate either. So their intentions were very clear to me from the outset. What you're looking at, this was a planned ambush. Not only were they going to fight your governor at every opportunity, they actually went out and got themselves two Democrats, two people who had just voted for Kamala Harris, and they made them members of your Florida Republican Party in order to boost their ranks. So, as the second most conservative member of the Florida House, I couldn't go along with this agenda. So I left the Florida House, a place where I, as a conservative, was made to feel very unwelcome. You see, this is a different Florida House, very different Florida House. Governor, I find it difficult to even call it a Republican House majority. I call it the runaway House, because they are running away from conservative ideals. They're giving Democrats the power to roll back all these hard-fought achievements. And how bad are things right now in this runaway House? Well, let's go back to those squad members that I mentioned earlier. Anna Escamani, who we've brought up a couple times today, she is co-sponsoring the bill that wants to stop our governor from eliminating wokeism. Squad member Angie Nixon has taken to cheering on local Representative Alex Andrade, who is using his committee. Oh, we'll get to Alex in a minute. Angie Nixon is retweeting his tweets because he's using his committee to enact lawfare on the governor and our wonderful First Lady. I mean, it's disgusting. And believe it or not, the last member of the squad, Hillary Cassell, you're not going to believe this. She was welcomed with open arms into the Republican Party and made a vice chair, where she is essentially second in command in the Florida House right now. And she has begun systematically dismantling the homeowners insurance reforms that we fought for 20 years to pass, and she's making sure that she's fattening her own wallet in the process. She literally went on TV and said that Danny Perez is just the type of leader she always wanted to serve under. So this, unfortunately, is the new math. This is the new runaway Florida House that Governor DeSantis, unfortunately, is left to work with. Now, I heard some comments there in the back, so I'm going to digress for a minute because I am sad to say that one of our own local representatives, Alex Andrade, has decided to interject himself into the mix. He's actually taking shots at our governor.
We'll have to recall Florida.
Well, Governor, just so you know, you are in DeSantis country, and these people, they know Alex Andrade well. I don't have to tell them that Andrade has a history of fighting conservative Republicans. And again, don't take it personally. When I had a blogger harass me on the campaign trail and get in my wife's personal space, I sued for a restraining order. Alex Andrade defended her. When a local conservative group, and we see the leader of that group right here today, Recall Florida, Chance, you know very well that when Recall Florida went up to Alex Andrade and asked him to support a bill that would allow you to recall corrupt county officials, he didn't support you, he reported your organization to the Florida Elections Commission. He tried to get you guys disbanded, which is just disgusting. You know, I could go on and on. I'm looking out there to see if the mayor of Milton made it here today. Is she back there somewhere? Mayor Lindsay, God bless you. We're joined today by the mayor of the city of Milton, who is yet another casualty of Andrade's lawfare tactics. You see, Alex Andrade used to be city attorney of Milton, where he literally sued the mayor. I'm happy to report that after the 2024 election, the new Milton City Council fired Andrade as city attorney. And let me just say, that's not the first black eye on Andrade's record. Now, I think most of y'all know this. I don't think the governor and the first lady know this, but they may find it enlightening to know that local gun store owner Chris Smith, Governor, he's a strong Second Amendment advocate. He believes, like we do, that we should have open carry and repeal those crazy red flag laws. Chris Smith has actually challenged Representative Andrade to a boxing match this summer. That's how well-liked Alex Andrade is in the district. So I just thought you might want to have that in your back pocket, Governor. So, ladies and gentlemen, understand, these are not good people lining up against this man. They may have an R behind their name, but they are not listening to you. They are not doing what they were elected to do. As I mentioned, 2 of their entourage were Democrats just 4 months ago. So you can imagine when I left the Florida House, and I'm reading all this in the newspaper just like you guys are now. I'm a private citizen. So as a private citizen, when I saw what Speaker Perez and the Florida House were doing to this man, to our champion, to the First Lady, they're letting in Democrats. They're turning your government over to Morgan & Morgan. They're ignoring open carry. They watered down or attempted to water down our governor's deportation efforts. They're thumbing their nose at property tax reform that we will all benefit from. So I'm sitting there watching this. I had a choice to make. Am I going to stand with America's governor, or am I in bed with Danny Perez and Alex Andrade in this runaway Florida House that had just welcomed in 2 Democrats? And not only that, gave them both vice chairmanships. So for me, that was an easy choice. I stand with Ron DeSantis.
And we do.
Well, and RC, these questions are for you. When it comes to homeowners insurance, are we going to stand with America's governor who has already enacted meaningful reforms, or are you going to stand with this brand new Republican, Hillary Cassell, a trial lawyer who 4 months ago voted for Kamala Harris for president and who just filed a bill that directly benefits her very own law practice? We stand with Ron DeSantis, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to tax cuts, are you going to stand with America's governor who's telling the legislature we need property tax relief now? Or are you going to stand with Alex Andrade? Remember, this is the guy who here's from Pace, who here lives in Midway, who here lives along Avalon. Remember, Alex Andrade is the Republican who raised your fire taxes. Who are you standing with? I'm standing with Governor Ron DeSantis. And when it comes to your most treasured thing that you hold dear, your children's education, your investment in that education process, teaching your kids, rooting out these communist, socialist talking points, eliminating these DEI programs, are you going to stand with America's governor, or do you stand with Anna Eskamani and this Salzman bill that takes conservative warriors out of the picture entirely? Again, we stand with Governor DeSantis. Governor, I'm going to wrap up, but I just want you to know that, you know, when you stand in Pensacola, you're standing in a place that has been home to some pretty historic governors, including our very first one, General Andrew Jackson. Let me tell you from the bottom of my heart, you are by far the best governor Florida has ever seen. And on behalf of all these Republicans here in Northwest Florida, I sincerely want to apologize for the appalling behavior of Representative Andrade and this runaway House. Their tactics are those that we would expect from Democrats. Their priorities, I promise you, are not the ones they ran on in 2024. And their actions are not representative of the will of these voters. When I was running for Congress, when I left the Florida House to run for Congress, I tried to warn everyone the only people who can derail the Trump agenda were the people that were Republicans in name only. I think you're seeing that in the Florida House, but our governor, Governor DeSantis, he is not going to let that happen. Governor, it's time to put on the armor of God, because Pensacola, Florida stands with you 100%.
And so Dr. Rudman, he actually mentioned some of the COVID stuff we were fighting against, fighting Fauci, doing this stuff, making sure kids were in school, all this stuff. And one of the guys that really helped us do that was our Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, who's done a really good job. He's the best Surgeon General in the country. And it's interesting, this shows you the Florida House. They're actually doing a different bill that would have the effect of firing Ladapo as being Surgeon General. It would also fire our Florida Department of Transportation Secretary, who was instrumental after Hurricane Ian when we rebuilt the Pine Island Bridge in 3 days. Why? Because Ladapo has a job at University of Florida as well. He doesn't live in the Tallahassee swamp, and they're saying that all of these agency heads must live in the swamp. I want to drain the swamp. I don't want to refill the swamp. Where are they getting this? It's an asinine proposal, but it is motivated to try to take out people like Ladapo, who've stood by you, who've done a good job. They didn't run saying they were going to launch pot shots against Ladapo and these other great agency heads who've served Florida well. No, they didn't do that. They're pulling it out of their rear ends and trying to jam it through this process. Over my veto pen, though, it isn't going to work, so we're fine. But this just gives you a sense of what's going on. So, I've been talking with folks recently. Your representatives need to hear from you. You need to tell them that what they're doing in the Florida House is not what you voted for. You have the ability to hold them accountable. You can call them on this nonsense. They didn't tell you this is what they were going to do. This wasn't the agenda that they campaigned on. And after all the success that we've had in Florida, I go to these other states and they always, oh, we wish we had, Florida policies here in this state or that state. They want to seek your vote on that basis and then turn around and sabotage it. They can't get away with that, and I know you will not let them get away with it. So thank you. All right, do we got any questions back there? Yes. So, well, this is a manufactured hoax, and you have liberal media and liberal Democrats pushing this, and we have some of these leaders in the Florida House who are stabbing their constituents in the back and joining with liberal media and liberal Democrats. It is a farce. It is manufactured, and it's part of their political agenda. So they can continue to waste time. They're not cutting your property taxes. They haven't done a condo bill. Heck, Joel mentioned they fought me on immigration deportation. I called the special session. The Speaker of the House said it was premature. He said we didn't need to do it. He said that I was being irresponsible by wanting to assist the Trump administration to increase deportations. So these guys are colluding in the Florida House with these liberal Democrats and liberal media. And as I've said, I'm used to this. They've accused me, since I've been governor, they've called me everything but a child of God. That is what happens. That's what I expect from liberal Democrats. That's what I expect from liberal media. I expect the fabrications. I expect the manufactured narratives. But I think on this time you have this junta in the Florida House that is doing this, and they're colluding because they know that you're on to what they're trying to do. They know that their agenda stinks. They know it's not what they promised you. So this is a way to kind of divert your attention from the fact that, some of these guys are doing the bidding of Morgan & Morgan. They're doing the bidding of the big weed cartel, True Leaf, running bills for True Leaf, basically bought and paid for by them. And they don't want you to know that. So they're going to try to manufacture. And look, some people feel threatened by the First Lady. Let's just be clear about that. They know this. They say, you saw her up here. If you're looking at, like 2026 and you've got, some horse, you don't want her anywhere near that. You're very worried because she runs circles around their people. Everybody knows that. So I think this is a total farce. I think Hope Florida has been tremendously successful, and that's obviously our government policy. The associated charity that supports the Department of Children and Families, that's where that charity gave money to these groups. That charity's given bonus to Hope Navigators. That charity has been instrumental in supporting organizations that have combated drug abuse. Because if you think about child welfare, the majority of child welfare cases, there are drugs in the home that the parents are using. And so I don't see how you could possibly solve that problem unless you're going to be serious about assisting in efforts to mitigate drug abuse. And so that's what the charity has done. It's been incredibly successful. They're just grasping at straws. They're trying to find stuff. They're launching wild accusations. But I don't think anybody's buying it. I think we've all seen this movie before. We know how some of these liberal outlets and all this stuff and the liberal Democrats get spun up. The only thing different is that you have ostensible Republicans in the leadership that are joining in on this. And again, I think it's politically motivated. I don't think it's not a good faith effort on their part. Yes.
Governor, with the president gutting the Department of Education, sending a lot of responsibility hopefully back to the states, what's your worldview on the state's influence in public schools and education as a whole?
Well, I commend the president for cutting out the Department of Education bureaucracy. Block grant us that money. We'll use it much better without these Department of Education federal bureaucrats getting their grubby hands on it. So yes, block grant us the money. The money will go much further. We will be able to get the job done, I think, in a really, really positive way. And I know they're still working through the details on that, but hopefully we're able to do that, and we're able to really focus on applying those resources in a way that are consistent with our Florida First agenda and policies. And if you think about it, remember, we were the first state. Like, people talk about this now. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. We were the first state, or one of the first states, to pass legislation protecting women's sports. We said if you're competing in 8th grade volleyball, that girls volleyball, that a boy can't come in and dominate that competition. That's wrong. That's unfair to the girls. And so we were happy to do that. It's sad that we even have to do that, but we did it. Well, the Biden administration, their whole thing was all about the transgender ideology. They threatened to withhold free and reduced lunch money from poor kids as a result, in reprisal for us standing up for that. And I'm just thinking to myself, they're trying to wield the power of the purse federally to kneecap the state of Florida's policies, and we refuse to buckle under that. In fact, I rejected almost $1 billion in money from Biden. That one was on transportation. He wanted us to do woke transportation policy. So he wanted me to have the state monitor your tailpipe emissions. I am not doing that. And then they wanted all this money. They wanted me to spend all this money to bring in illegal aliens. I'm not doing that either. So we rejected that. And but the thing was, when Biden was president, we told them we don't want it. We'll send it back. They're like, well, what do you mean you're sending it back? Like, we're not going to use it. I'm not going to let you bribe us into changing our policies. I have to do the policies that the people of Florida elected me to do. But they didn't even know how to take it back. They're like, no one's ever sent money back. So about a month or two ago, we were up in Washington and we met with Elon Musk. And I told him, I said, Elon, I got almost $1 billion here. The Biden administration put all these strings attached. I offered to send it back to him. They didn't know how to take it. He's like, oh, no, we'll take it. So he got a Doge guy they called Treasury, and we submitted it back. And we're on the board for almost $1 billion to help Doge. And then we're working on some more stuff. Hopefully we'll have another announcement very, very soon. But this idea that like a liberal administration like Biden can send this money and then try to compel you to behave in certain ways, that's not good for education. And I understand why they do it, and there are times on the conservative side, I don't want to give money unless you're serving a conservative end, but the federal government was not designed to do K-12 education. That was not what the Founding Fathers intended. There was never really any constitutional basis to do that. And so when Jimmy Carter did it in the late 70s, our education system, has it gotten better since you've had federal meddling in K-12? No, it hasn't. So empower us. We'll take that, and I think we'll be able to get the job done well. Yes?
Yes, sir. Governor, at the Florida State Athletic Commission, this is a personal request I have.
Okay.
Later down junior plumbing, local plumbing.
Oh, good.
Fourth generation. But anyways, we have an executive director, his name's Timothy Shipman. We've had lots of problems with it. Our events are going down in the state of Florida. We also have a lot of combat.
Are you on the board of FHSA?
I'm one of the referees.
Okay.
And
Have you spoken to any people on the board about it?
I have.
Okay.
And I was just going to put it in your ear if you could help us out.
I'll look into it. It's interesting. So the Florida High School Athletic Association, when I became governor, it was like a self-created board, and they had no real oversight. I don't even know how these people ended up on the board. And which is it's not necessarily like a huge thing for a governor, normally in day to day. But what happened was when COVID hit, they wanted to close sports, FHSA. So they had this hearing. So this is probably in like June or July of 2020. So COVID had hit, a couple months earlier. And it was very clear that younger people were not at significant risk. Certainly athletic people were not at significant risk. Like, you'd get it, you get sick. But the idea that you'd have a hospitalization or a fatality was very, very, very rare. And we all know, you could get hospitalized with the flu. The flu creates. So we're not going to stop society. These kids need to be in sports or whatever. And so they did this hearing, and they had all these doctors affiliated with FHSAA, and they were all coming one after another saying, oh, the kids are going to die if you have sports, if you do this. And I'm thinking to myself, that is wrong. That is not true. And this is kind of a whole issue with COVID. It exposed the soft underbelly of the medical profession. We've got some of these people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it's honestly very scary, because you used to go in, you'd assume anyone with a doctor, with an MD, is going to take care of you. And then they're turning around and saying that a 17-year-old kid can't be playing football because of COVID? I mean, that's just not true, right? Just like some of these pediatricians are saying you got to give an mRNA jab to a newborn baby for COVID. That is not true. That is not good policy. So we had a knockdown, drag-out fight over that. I didn't control the board, but we just said, you're playing sports. So, and I said, look, if you don't want to play, fine. No one's forcing anyone to play, but you got to give them a thing. So what ended up happening is we saved the season. We had kids from other states that would move to Florida because they weren't allowed to play in Illinois. They weren't allowed to play in California. And then they were able to do that. And it's interesting, I got a buddy that's involved in high up in Major League Baseball for one of the teams, and he told me that if you look over the last few years and look at the talent that's come out of California versus Florida, California has gone down because these kids were locked out of sport. They weren't getting at bats. They weren't getting innings. And you just can't do that at that age. You need the at bats. So just by sticking up and saving sports, that had a huge impact on people's lives in the state of Florida, on these kids' lives. And I remember going to the football playoffs, and they're like, will you speak to one of the teams? I'm like, fine. So I go there, and they're like, what can you say to the team? And I was like, well, one, good luck. Two, just understand, if you were in California, your rumps would be on the couch. You'd be watching football on TV. They wouldn't let you play football. So thank God you live in the free state of Florida. And everybody kind of got it. So now we have in place, so because of that, we actually did reforms of FHSA. So I've appointed board members, and I think these are folks that are going to be responsive, and so I can raise this issue with them. But this is another thing the legislature is trying to monkey around with. They don't like the fact that we saved the day on sports, and so as an attack on me, they're trying to neuter our ability to put people on the High School Athletic Association. And again, I'm not saying that's the most important issue on every voter's mind, but as somebody that was played sports throughout Florida and went to high school down in Dunedin, I understand it's important for a lot of people. So we will look at that, and we will see what needs to be done. Okay, guys, thanks so much. God bless everybody. We'll see you.